Hello everyone, welcome to the Speak Up podcast. This is Tulia Lopes here, your communication architect and host. I'm committed to helping you to use your speaking and presentation skills to impact lives and bring more business to your businesses. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome here with me and you, Michael Davis. And Michael will tell us what we can do to embrace this new trend, this new era of online presentations. Michael, is that you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I was just saying.
Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I actually was on earlier because I had it down for an earlier time on another calendar, and then I had router issues. I've been scrambling to get back on.
That's okay. So I'm glad you're here because I was already persuading people to register to come back later because I thought, oh my God, we forgot.
No, I didn't forget at all.
Yes. Okay. So then as we are a little bit late, not that much, 1 minute, so that's still okay. And everything's working. I was explaining to everybody that I don't use the webinar Jam so often. So forgive me if I make a little mistakes here, but I think we'll be fine. And I will then, when we decide to go ahead, we wait a little bit for people to arrive because we had about 25 people registered, and I can see here we have 11.
Yes.
So some people might be a little bit late, but in this part of the world, you can expect that they're pretty much in time, so which is good. And what I will do once we go ahead, everybody's muted anyway. I've been asking them to write their questions. I'll be monitoring their questions. And at the end, when you finish your presentation, I can go back to the questions and ask. But they also can ask for raise their hand for questions. So
sure,
this is up to them here if they want to do that. But in any case, I'll be monitoring here. And to everybody to know that Michael is we'll be giving also you an offer at the end, correct, Michael? Something that you can continue.
Sure.
Because the point is we all collect too much information. That's very good. But then what we do with the information is the most important thing. My mentor used to say, knowledge is great, but execution is everything. No, it doesn't matter how much you know, but if you don't put it to practice, you don't get too far. So that's what we are going to do. And I will then, I believe I could start explaining a little bit about the topic, and then I will introduce you, Michael. Is that okay?
Sure, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so as we all are hibernating and discovering new skills, some people are, a friend of mine said, we are going to be or very good cooks or alcoholic and nothing in between. So hopefully we do something in between, and that's why the reason we are doing this here. And we tonight, the objective is with Michael to share his experience in how we can all use these tools that we have available to us for building up our online presence if we don't have started yet, or even if we have started, how we can improve. There's always something we can improve. And the main, the key points he will cover here is to understand and overcome the biggest challenge with the online presenting, how to maintain control on online meetings and webinars. And that's challenging because if you're going to use this for your company to keep the energy, how we do that, the most effective use of slides and visuals, and the best method to improve as quickly as possible. Okay. And now, let me just tell you a little bit about Michael. Who is Michael? Michael, do you want to tell people about yourself instead of me doing like a introduction?
Go ahead and read the introduction.
Can I read the introduction?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Michael Davis works is wholly centered on presentation and leadership skills training. His mission is to help leaders, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals present with more confidence, impact, and influence. He provides you with proven processes and tools that you can use to lead people through times of crisis with memorable and meaningful presentations, even on short notice. Michael's passion is born from his own embarrassing experience, which made him fear any speaking situation for 25 years. He overcame this negativity with help from mentors who have given him a world-class education on the art of public speaking and storytelling. And he continues to learn from them to this day. Michael is a highly sought presentation skills coach, author, and professional speaker. He has worked with leaders, executives, sales professionals, and TEDx speakers in 4 continents. He is also a faculty member and coach at Stage Time University, Rooftop Leadership, and TEDx Cincinnati. And he currently lives in Blue Ash, Ohio, with his family and the overlords of their house, Sky, the super Chihuahua, and her underlying Healy, the mini Chihuahua. Okay, Michael, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tulia. I'd like to jump right in with something you said a couple of minutes ago. You said we're going to make mistakes. That is the first suggestion I make to everybody when it comes to online presenting. You are going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. This is a whole new world that we've been thrown into. I'm very fortunate. Back in 2017, one of my mentors, who is a good friend of mine, Darren LaCroix, asked me to be the host of his weekly webinars for Stage Time University. That is an online presentation group. We do coaching every week. The first time I hosted, I was terrified. And it wasn't necessarily because I was online. I'd done webinars and presentations. I was terrified because I was hosting an event for someone else, and his company and their reputation was on the line. I had to get good. And the first time, I had to do everything. I had to know the technology, which was brand new to me. I had to watch the chat box and the questions and answers. I had to put up screens. When I go back and watch that first one, I'm amazed I did the second one. And I just share that with you because you are going to be nervous. You're going to be intimidated. You're going to be overwhelmed. And that is perfectly fine. Be good to yourself. In the speaking world, I've been giving online presentations for 4 or 5 years, and I got really serious about 2 years ago because I felt like this is where the industry was headed. Well, coronavirus has changed that. The online presenting is no longer the future. It is the present, and it is not going to go away. Coronavirus is going to affect us all in so many ways, but the permanent changes, we're still going to do face-to-face presentations. We'll still have live talks, but we are going to rely heavier and heavier on online. This isn't the last time we're going to have a virus. This isn't the last time we'll have other calamities, and we have to get good at this. And what I'm telling people, in fact, I'm creating an online program right now. I'm telling people you either have to embrace this or you're going to be buried by it from a business standpoint. That's just the way it is. It's maybe not fair. It's not right. Don't like it, but we have to do that. So that's the first thing I want to tell everyone is be good to yourself. You're going to make mistakes, but that's how you're going to learn quickly, and just jump right in and do it.
Yes. And if I just can add something on
absolutely, please do.
And I believe when you allow yourself to make mistakes as well, and you acknowledge that, it makes you human, and people feel like, oh, this is a more spontaneous, the connections, the bond. I think you become closer to the person out there, because to manage this energy level, this connection through the screen is not an easy task, but we try our best.
Absolutely. And look, as we go through this, if you have any thoughts, Tulia, or if anybody wants to ask a question, they don't have to wait till the end.
Okay.
My feeling is if somebody brings up the question now, other people are thinking about it, let's just go ahead and address it. One of the challenges that you have with online presenting versus live is, let's say I'm going to do a 45-minute speech in front of 200 people in an auditorium. I know my agenda. I have my speech laid out. Online, I think we have to be more flexible and allow people to interrupt us as long as it doesn't take us too far off track, because there are all kinds of questions. Because this is new for so many people, if we don't stop our presentations and address the questions that people have, I think they may not hear the rest of our prepared remarks. They're going to be distracted. So just stop. And now what this means to you as a presenter is you've got to know your material. You've got to prepare just like you would for a live speech, know the flow, and then be willing to, as I call it, throw out the script. Okay. It may happen today. I don't know. I have several points and I know we're not going to get to all of them.
And can I just say something about the script?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I say, especially to the ladies, because, I work mostly with women, the ladies tend to be too stuck on what they have, on their preparation in this perfect presentation. And that is something that we all have to learn our content and then just let it go, let it be. You have your guidelines there, because otherwise it comes out very rigid.
Oh, that's a great point. I do speech coaching most of the time and storytelling coaching. Now I'm doing a lot of online coaching, but the point you just made is critical for every format we're using. And that is this. We forget when we stand on stage that most people in the audience are in awe of the fact that we even get up there and do that. They're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that like that. So that's the first thing to remember. The same thing is happening online. A lot of people, when they see you a few times, they go, oh my gosh, you're incredible. How did you do that? Well, you did it by going up there and making mistakes over and over again. And excellent point, Tulia. We do not want you to be perfect. One of my mentors taught me it's not about perfection, it's about connection.
Good point.
And if you are the type of presenter, whether it's live or online, who's focused on being perfect, let me ask you a question. I want to turn it around on you. When you see a presenter who stands at the front of the room who is perfectly polished, I mean, not a hair out of place, and if it's a man, perfectly shaven and not a wrinkle in the suit, and they get up there and they never make a mistake, do you feel connected to that presenter?
So the question, people, is not for me to answer.
No, you can put it in the chat box. Or
just put it in the chat box.
Yeah, just think about it. Do you truly feel a deep connection with somebody who comes across as perfect?
Let me see here. Some of I knew. No, of course. Okay. Absolutely.
I knew the answer, and here's why. I started speaking in 1994. The first 10 years I spoke, I would have people come up to me and they would say, oh, you were so polished up there. And I thought that was great. And then one day I happened to be cleaning my office and I had a can of polish, spray polish. And I was wiping the table and I realized nothing sticks to polish. Right?
What a revelation. That's very interesting analogy.
And I thought, oh my gosh, every time I speak, nothing is sticking because I was too worried about how's my hair, how's this. One of my other coaches one day asked a question and I was in the audience and he said, raise your hand if you're worried about how you look and what your appearance is and your hair. And a bunch of hands went up, including mine. And he said, let it go. It ain't about you.
It's about them.
And I thought, oh my gosh. So all that happened. And now if somebody ever tells me I'm polished, which occasionally happens, I cringe because it's like, oh my gosh, my message probably didn't stick with that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Part of being unpolished is be yourself.
Be yourself. But you made the first point, know your content, and then be yourself, because then you can deliver your way authentically. So
absolutely.
Let's get started, because we can continue the conversation here. I can see forever, but we can continue the conversation after your presentation. My question to you, can you access your video from there, or should I?
Oh, there we go. You know what? Slides. That's what I need. Okay.
Okay. Yes, actually, yes, it's slide. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to jump ahead to.
Oh, it worked. Great.
It works.
Okay.
Now, for anybody watching, what you just saw, Tulia and I had not prepared that. We hadn't had a chance to talk because I got here late. Again, technology, it's going to happen. Did that feel too disruptive or too distracting? No, probably not.
Be honest.
If it
right
did.
Now, no communication. There's a bit of delay as well. So the answers are coming a little bit late.
That's one of the issues. And I'm going to step in and out of these slides. There aren't many slides here. First of all, do not overwhelm your audience with slides, because what people want in this, especially this time of isolation, we are social creatures. And when we are isolated, we really want that face-to-face communication. So do not put so many slides up there. I know you can see us in the lower right-hand corner, but occasionally click out of the presentation so people can see your face. That's one tip. But let's take a look here. I'm going to skip the overview because we're just going to kind of jump around on that. Here's the thing about mistakes, and I just want to add this up one other point. Viewers will forgive mistakes, and they will stay engaged with you if they know that you're calm, that you're not getting flustered, and they believe you can solve their problem. This is no different than if you're in sales and leadership. People have problems today. Everybody watching this is a problem solver. Just keep focused on the solution you have for folks. Patricia Fripp is a Hall of Fame speaker here in the United States. And she says, if you have the right message with the right audience at the right time, audiences will forgive almost any mistake. In fact, the only mistake they won't forgive is being boring. And that's also from Patricia. So let's take a look at the equipment. The biggest challenge you have as an online presenter is the camera. Because you and I have been raised since we were little bitty children to stare at a screen. Now, for my generation, it was the TV. For if you're a millennial or younger, it was the computer screen. So you have a habit, a tendency to do this when you're online, especially when there are a lot of faces on there. So right, you're looking here at this person and here, and you're not making eye contact. That's disorienting for the viewer. You have to create a new habit. You've got to get used to looking at that light or just to either side of that light. This is a great tip that somebody gave me when I first started hosting the webinars, is put the picture of someone you like or love behind the camera. That way you can look at the picture and it still feels like you're still looking at the camera. Now, don't put a picture of somebody you don't like, because then you'll be frowning too much, and that's not good. So now this is an example of me looking up at a camera a little bit too much. This next one is me looking down. You don't want to look down on your audience. Also, you don't want to have this beautiful little frown that I have right here. Now, when I first took these pictures, I thought, oh, I need to retake those because I'm frowning. But I realized this is a teaching moment. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you have a smile on your face as much as possible. Nobody wants to see this all the time. So I kept those pictures as a reminder to myself and to you that you don't want this expression. You don't want to be looking up at the camera. You don't want to be looking too far down. You want to look in the middle. Just look here. One of the issues I also see with people getting used to speaking to the camera is, again, like a speaker who's trying to memorize a speech. It sounds memorized. Get used to this practice. One of the I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'll say this over and over. This is all about practice and repetition.
Mm.
I use Zoom a lot. You can use GoToWebinar. Whatever platform you use is not as important as the fact if you can get on there and just practice and just hit the record button. Talk for a few minutes, stop the recording, go back and watch it. Now, when I make the suggestion to record yourself and watch it, please type in the chat box, what is your first reaction to that? This is the reaction I typically get when I ask this question. Oh, really? I really don't like to look at myself on camera, and I hate the sound of my voice.
Exactly what Elena just said. I hate the sound of my voice. I hate to watch myself on video.
Okay.
That's normal.
It is normal. And when I said that to my first coach, Darren, he looked at me and he said, oh, really? You don't like to see yourself? That's too bad. Guess what? We had to watch you. So it's a funny line.
Yes.
But behind the humor is a fundamental truth. If you're not willing to look at yourself and listen to yourself, how can you possibly ask anyone to watch you?
Yeah, someone said, Oliver said here, I always find fault with how I look, sound, and etc. And I believe that's normal.
It is normal. And here's what I will tell you to that. This is a practice I'm going to suggest you get into, whether it's online, presenting, or live. Take 5 minutes, pad of paper, iPad, I don't care what you use, and ask yourself this question. What did I just do well? What did I do well? And make a list. It may be something as simple as, I didn't pass out. I got through all my points. I don't care what it is. You need to give yourself credit for doing the work, because most people won't even do what we're doing here online.
Yeah.
The other reason you want to do that is if you're doing something well, you need to remind yourself, or else you'll stop doing it. So that's the first action. Second is ask other people, what did I do well? And don't accept, oh, you were good. You were really great. That doesn't tell you anything. Ask for specifics.
Yeah, exactly. What did you like? Exactly.
Yes.
What have I done well that you like?
Right.
So then you give the space for the person to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And what impacted you? What did you remember? And I say the same thing to people when they speak in person or when they tell stories. One of my coaches taught me, crave feedback. Look, I don't like more, just like anyone else, I don't love it when somebody says, oh, that could have been better. Oh, man, I just did all that work. But we need that feedback. And I promise you'll get better. So make that list first. Then you can look at, what can I do better? Make the list. And once you have the list, here's what I don't want you to do with it. Let's say you've written down 10 items. Do not go into your next presentation and try to change 10 things. It's too much. Pick the top 2, maybe even 1, and focus on that for your next presentation. Focus on that in your rehearsals. And then once you feel like you've gotten that one and you're comfortable with it, and it's now in the good column, go to the next one and the next one and the next one. Here's what's going to happen accidentally. Just by doing more and more of these online presentations, some of those items on the list that are further down on your improve list, they will naturally get better. And you'll look one day and say, well, I don't have that problem anymore. It's just going to happen through doing more and more of these. But control the way you improve. If you try to do too much, I think you're going to get worse, because you're going to be too focused on making errors.
Exactly. I would like to mention something. That's something that I use not only for when training for presentations and speaking, because I believe you have to own your message first.
Yes.
Before going recording yourself, own your message first. Know your training first. Master it first, and then practice, and then you go to the next step, which is looking at you. Because I believe if we focus first on ourselves when we don't have that experience, and focus on a recording, because some people I want your feedback on that, because some people I see when they start speaking, for example, they want to be recorded immediately. And I find this can be a little bit, can backfire, because as we know, you're not going to like your voice, you're not going to like yourself, you're not going to like most of what you see and hear, and that be work against you. So my suggestion always is get to know your topic, own that message, and then you work in this external factor of your delivery, because then you'll be more objective looking, because you know that you have a confidence that what your message is what you want to say.
Oh, I agree 100%. If you don't have a message, don't do the presentation. And I know one of the comments earlier was, I'm concerned about how I look and all that. I'm going to encourage you to stop focusing on that. And the way you do that, this is the way it helped me early on, is I stopped thinking about me as a speaker and I put myself in the seats of the audience. If someone's going to take the time to listen to you, whether it's online or live, what does that person want? They want a solution to a problem they have. If you have been asked to speak, it's because somebody thinks you've got an answer to that question. Like, you're not on this presentation, on this webinar today because of childcare issues. You may have childcare issues, but I'm not the guy to talk to about that, because my son is 24. He's out of the house. I don't know what it's like to be at home with children 24/7 in the middle of a pandemic. All right. So you're here for online presentation skills. I know that I have tips that can help you. Is my hair the best? No. Are there other issues? Sure. I don't care about this. I dress professionally in my work shirt, but I'm here to give you tips that will help you become a better presenter. I promise you, the more you do this, the more you'll start to focus on the audience. But ask yourself, to go back to your point, Tulia, is when you're putting your whole presentation together, what's the message I want you to walk away with? It always starts with that. You also made a point that I agree with, in that when I start practicing a presentation, I never video record myself in the beginning. That's not the time to worry about how I look, how I'm coming across, how do I use the stage, how do I use the camera. That's the time to listen only to the message, to make sure that it's clear. It's a premise that is people can use. And if you're focused on looking at yourself early on, you're not working on the message.
Absolutely.
So I love that suggestion too. Let's take a look at lighting. This is the straight on shot, which is overexposed. It's too white. I almost blend into the background. This one's too dark. Now, of the two, I think I'd rather have this if I only had two, because I always say when it's dark, you look like you're in some kind of witness protection program. You don't want to do that. This is more ideal. What I have here, and actually that could be a little lighter. I think what I have on screen today is good. Now, lighting is challenging for many reasons. You've got, where I am in the States, it is 2:00. The sun is out and I've got two windows in my office. It's a different lighting situation than if it's at night or it's a cloudy day. You're constantly having to change your lights. Again, don't look for perfection, just look for improvement. So lighting is a factor to consider. What's more important even than that, though, is the distractions you have to deal with. When you're presenting that, this is the biggest challenge that we have as online presenters. Now, you know, if you stand in front of a group and speak, you've got distractions. It could be in the room. It could be the temperature of the room, the time of day. People have their phones. Take all of those distractions that we have in live presentations and multiply that probably by 50. Right? So let's take a look at the three different types of distractions you've got. Number one is your office, your workspace at home, in your office when we get back to those days. this is not my desk. Mine sometimes looks worse than this, but I love this picture because look at everything that's a potential distraction if you're getting ready to present on this computer. You've got your phone in the upper left-hand corner. It could be blinking with messages. You might be thinking in the middle of a presentation, oh, I wonder who called. Gee, I'm getting low on water over here.
Yeah.
You might glance down at your calendar on the left, maybe to the cup of coffee on the right. Oh, maybe that's getting cold. I need to refresh my coffee. Oh, I knocked my pencils over. Oh, the iPad. I wonder if I need to plug it in. You see what I mean? These are all visual distractions that will take you away from what your job is on an online presentation, and that is focus on the audience. So clean up your
sorry.
No, go ahead.
In the ideal world, we all would have our space dedicated for that. Because I don't know about you, but I believe if we have the possibility of defining different spaces for different activities we have, for example, this is my working space, my reading space is there, it also changes your mindset for that specific task. So if you there have the possibility of building, of creating a corner in your room for doing that, it will help you. And exactly what Michael is saying, taking away the distractions that I'm here doing this job, answering emails, and I have many things to do, but I say now I have to do my training or my online presentation. If I can move to a different space, doesn't even need to be a different room, but a different space, then you focus on that there. That's what I try to do. I don't have my perfect space yet, but working on it.
You know what? I'm going to show you pictures in a minute of how my room has changed. Now, my desk has a few notes on it I should have pulled off before this call, but again, scrambling with technology, I couldn't worry about notes. I had to get online, but just be aware of it. And what I would suggest you do, and I did this earlier today, I took a picture of my desk and I looked at it, and it sounds silly, but looking at a picture of my desk versus looking at my desk live, I saw things I hadn't noticed, distractions, and I took them away. So be very aware of your physical space. The other thing you can't control is your audience. You hope that they aren't distracted, but that's why our presentations have to be so engaging. That's why I said earlier, and let me see here. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to come out of the slides for a moment, and we're just going to re-engage for a moment with our faces. We need to do that. We need to change up the pacing of our talks. Nobody wants to look at slides all the time. Now, my slides happen to have pictures, so they're a little more engaging, but still come out of it periodically. And let's take this as an opportunity. Are there any questions that people have? Has this been useful information for the viewers so far?
That's a question for you guys. You can answer.
By the way, I love that necklace you have on. That red just pops off.
Thank you. It's to give some brightness here. Yes, Edith said yes. Yes, it has been helpful. Can you be more precise, ladies? I have a lot of ladies here.
I love that.
Marcus is here as well. I sent him to the kitchen. Okay, I think we can. There's a kind of delay, so they will be answering there.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. So again, you don't have to wait till the end. If you have a question that's really pressing, then go for it. Ask it. So let's get back to our slides. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the background is really important. This is going to make me start over. That's it.
I hate this beam I have in my background there. Well, I have problems here in my space, so
I understand.
Not getting there.
You know, here in the States, I mean, I've read that we tend to have larger houses, and I have a basement office, which is a huge benefit for me. I've been working at home for 4 years now. So this coronavirus lockdown has not impacted my physical space where I work. So I have an advantage, and I feel very blessed by that, because I know a lot of folks are having to change last minute. Exactly. But just because I have this space doesn't mean it's always look good. Here are a couple of examples of what you should not do. A few years ago, because my initials are MD, I was toying with the idea of branding myself as the speaking MD, like the speaking medical doctor. And I shot these videos with a white lab coat. Now notice this really expensive high-tech white sheet behind me. Okay. This is creased. It wasn't ironed. I'm laughing, but I'm also embarrassed to show this to you. But if I'm going to truly be a coach, I have to show you my mistakes. This is not a good look. So I graduated from that in my basement office, and I made things even worse.
Oops.
Check this out. Here is, in this left-hand corner, there is a window letting sunlight in. Below that, there's a bulletin board with pictures that are just distracting enough for people to wonder, gee, what's on that? I've got 2 pictures behind me. One of them has a glare, but it's still enough where people might think, I wonder what that's a picture of. And then, as I like to say, my 1970s style wood paneling that was so popular here in the States back then. And I'm looking down at the camera. Now, there was one benefit to this video. I looked at that and said, oh my gosh, I need to lose weight. And I did. But all of this is totally distracting. One of my mentors pulled me aside one day and said that you got to look more professional. It's just not working. So we got here what I have behind me today. What I have on this wall is a gray backdrop that I purchased from Amazon. I think I paid $30 US for it. I ironed it, and it's literally clipped to the top of that brown wall is still here. It's behind me, but I've clipped this to the back of the wall. You wouldn't know it if I didn't tell you that, but it's a much more professional look. I've got my microphone right here. That's all you need to see. And I did a webinar the other day, and one of my friends said, oh yeah, I find myself focused on you because I'm not looking at pictures and wood paneling and lights coming through windows.
There's a good point. Yeah. I have a couple of questions here for you.
Sure, absolutely.
One comes from Aurelie, and she says, which tools do you use to interact with your audience, like virtual brainstorming, flip charts, etc.?
I typically use slides, or now I don't know about this technology, but I use Zoom, and I can promote people and bring them on as co-hosts for a few minutes so we can have a conversation.
In a side room, yes.
Zoom has the breakout rooms where you can pair people up. If I'm doing a storytelling workshop, for example, I'll pair people up and have them work on stories and talk for a few minutes and then bring them back to the main room.
Many people have their flip chart as well if they have the space. Usually the other day I showed to you, I got this a small whiteboard. I haven't used it yet, but I thought it would be something easy if I need to write something and show or design something. I think you can be creative as well in your. You can. Yeah.
And there are whiteboard functions in these
in this one, yes.
Like Zoom. Now, I will tell you, I need to get better on those. Yeah. But they're there. Whatever platform you're using, go in to that platform's website and watch every video you can. Go to YouTube. Just figure out how to use this as well as possible. And I haven't had a lot of collaborative work where I needed the whiteboards. Typically the presentations I do, I'll have the slides and I can just pull them up, but that is one way. Does that answer the question, Arlie?
I believe so. I can add at the top of it, for example, here in a webinar jam, I can build polls before I can prepare questions and I can throw during my presentation. This creates a very good interaction because I can say who believes XYZ and then I just throw in the people select the option. So this helps. From my experience, I believe the easiest way is to try to find ways that they can write something, asking questions most of the time, because I don't know, a whiteboard can be good, but it's not like you're not going to be there on the flip chart writing all the time.
You're right. And when I do a live presentation, one of the first questions I ask my audience is, what do you want to get out of this workshop? I wouldn't do that live on a webinar. I would send out an email ahead of time and ask people, so I've got that ready to go, and I could list all those on a slide, and that way I could bring that slide back at the end and ask, did we get your questions answers? Have we addressed your concerns?
There's another question here from I hope I can pronounce her name correctly, or his name, I don't know if it's here or Niarika. How you make the sessions more interactive. For example, if you have to cover a topic where participants are supposed to interact together. I think you answered about the Zoom meeting rooms, the break rooms.
Yeah, you can do the breakout rooms, or I'm not sure what it's called in others, but that's an excellent way. But really, it's stay face-to-face and open up that chat box, or promote people if you have questions. You have to be careful in that you want to maintain control of the meeting, just like you do in a live presentation where there's questions and answers. Make sure that people are focused. If you sense that people are going off topic, you can just say, like I would live say, that's a really good point, or it's an excellent question. I think we're going off topic though. Why don't you and I talk afterwards? Let's exchange emails, or maybe do a Zoom call separately. But yeah, open up the chat box, open up the questions and answers, and bring people on if it will help to.
Yeah. There's another question here, which is related to positioning. It comes from Marcus, because he mentions first, Michael seems to be sitting in a low chair, barely see his shoulders. And he asks, should arms be visible? Hands? What do you think?
I think mostly what face. And here's why.
Right? Yeah.
The greatest physical communication tool we have is our face. And if I were to sit back here and you saw more of my body, and you tell me, Tulia, do you feel a little less connected to me when I sit back?
Absolutely, yeah.
I know it's awkward, Marcus. I still I'm a little uncomfortable because I can see myself in my peripheral vision. I feel like there's too much face. But when I watch other people, like Tulia, I like yours, I would just suggest that your camera come down, or move your camera up a little bit so your face is a little more centered. But otherwise, your face is
my chair. I can put my chair down.
There you go. That's a little better. But yeah, what I'm doing here, and I have the ability to kind of lean on my desk, and I will still, I'm a hand talker. Okay. I was born in France. I'm half German, half French. So I've got that European blood in me. And I've seen that a lot of Europeans I've interacted with talk with their hands. So I've got that going for me. Be yourself, but get closer to the camera because we need to see the expression on your face. That's how we feel more connected.
Yeah. And there's one, you probably all know, and all the rest of people know Brenda Burchard,
Yeah,
the big
Brenda Burchard. Yeah.
And Brenda is big on that. And I was watching one of his video. He was explaining his setup for his, and he's constantly giving live presentations, webinars, etc. Very simple, but one thing he said, which I found very interesting and makes sense. Everything he does standing, because your energy level is better when you're standing. Your voice comes out better, and you can move in. You can really, if you get excited. So, and also he puts his camera a little bit up, where he always looking a little bit up. So as a suggestion to everybody, you can try this as well. So I found it interesting. In fact, yes, when I have to record something that's very long, I do it standing, because sitting you tend to go down and then,
I agree. And I have a standing desk. Today some things didn't work out, but whenever I record, I definitely want to stand up, because there's no doubt you have more energy when you're standing up.
There's a tip here from Aurelie. Thank you very much, Aurelie. She says she used Mentimeter to interact with people. Mentimeter is quite good and it's fun, but I think it goes up to 50 people only. You can correct that to me, Aurelie, unless there's a paid version and you can get more. And Miro, I heard about Miro, which is from the designer, the Spanish painter. for virtual flip charts. I haven't tried that. Okay, so for everybody who is listening, mentimeter.com, you can check there, and Miro as well.
Absolutely. Now, the thing about online too, it's just like with PowerPoint, you don't want to have slides up just to have slides.
Mm-hmm.
You want them, anything you put up should supplement your presentation. Now, for example, and I'll open these pictures back up, the ones you've already seen. When I wanted to point out to you how not to, the kind of background not to have, it helps you to see that. This is what not to do. This is what to do. We'll go back a couple. Right? This is what not to do with your desk. By having those visuals, you have a better idea of what you should or shouldn't do. I try not to put words up, just like I don't on a PowerPoint slide in person, because if I can say it, you don't need to see the words on the screen. Yeah. I know there are some people who do webinars who disagree and they put all the words up. It's a preference. The more we can have this face-to-face, the better off we'll be.
But it wouldn't be the case of defining what type of presentation, because I find if you're giving a training and I'm presenting with trainings, I do include more text in the training, in these slides, because it's something that they will have with them afterwards, and they to refer, although there's always a handout anyways, but it's easier to follow. But when it's a more like as a presentation, yes, I fully go with the images and very few words. That's my style as well.
Yeah, I think you have to have an agenda. This was a little looser today because I just want to kind of let the questions dictate sometimes where we go, and just some best practices that have been working. From a delivery standpoint, a couple of other ideas is if you were to have a 1-hour presentation live, you might want to cut that down to 40 or 45 minutes online. Because if you think about a live presentation, it's an opportunity to, you've got the attention of the audience. Yes, there may be some distractions. You don't have that luxury online. You do not know what they're being distracted by. So the more you can cut out and get to the point, the more likely you'll keep their attention. In fact, how much more time do we have today?
Well, we're 53 minutes.
Okay.
We can I say extend 10, 15 more minutes, because otherwise it's too extensive for the people. No,
I only ask because when you get to an hour, if you're going to go 90 minutes or 2 hours, you have to build in breaks. I think you just have to. So we don't want to keep you much longer today. We know you're busy. But if you're going to have those longer trainings, build in a break probably every 45 minutes. For this webinar, 45 minutes to an hour, that's okay to go straight through. But anything longer than that, because you're going to lose them, but you're not going to know it.
Yeah. I think it's important that we see what technology is available out there and start trying. There's always free versions for softwares, at least. And I suggest people not go crazy and buy like expensive stuff without knowing how to use. Your phone nowadays can do a lot of things, and experiment, and just try and see what's the best for you, and start defining what is the type of presentation you're giving. So then you define how you're going to run. As Michael well said, we are very relaxed here. That was the purpose as well. And but some presentations you might want to have a more restricted structure. Oh, that was difficult.
Yeah.
But you have to manage your side. That's the important thing.
You do. And you mentioned technology and equipment. Depending on what you're going to use your online presentations for, always keep this in mind. Audio is more important than video. Meaning, if you have to sacrifice a little bit of video quality, that's okay. But poor audio quality, people tend not to forgive. If they can't hear you, they're going to be distracted and they're going to check out quicker. They can't see you as well, but they can hear you. You'll still keep their attention most likely. I have an Audio Technica microphone right up here. It's an Audio Technica 2020. I know a lot of people like the Yeti, the YETI. If you're going to do a lot of presentations, if you're in a professional situation where you're presenting to clients or other leaders, you probably want to make that investment, especially as we started out this conversation talking about this isn't a fad. Online presenting is here to stay. And if you want to stand out, it's important to have good equipment. And I agree with you, Tulia. Don't rush out right now and buy all of it. Computer's a good start, but the next thing to consider is a good quality microphone. And you can get a pretty good one for anywhere from $50 to $100. It's not an extravagant expense, but it's worth it. Try to get away from the headpiece microphones or the iPods for your phone. Sooner the better. Now, yours sound good, I will tell you.
Yes, I know. It sounds good, but I agree. You can see it. I have another one that's just here, lapel, and you can see the difference.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, yours is so good, it didn't even occur to me that you had the wire down. Usually I can tell when somebody's got a poor phone head jack because it's just, you can tell by the sound.
And I want to ask a question here. Ellen is asking, what are the 3 things we should not miss in any virtual presentation besides what you have already said? Three things. Yeah. 3 things that we can add here.
The first that occurs to me is that if you are hosting a meeting in today's coronavirus environment, it's really important to connect with your audience quickly. Now, this is more of a general webinar, and I don't know your team or your group, but if it's a team that you're leading, do a check-in with your people before you jump into a meeting. Just make sure they're feeling okay. Ask them what's something good that's happened in their world. Because if you look at the media today, it'll depress you. So we want to make sure that we're keeping people, letting people know that we're here, we're thinking about them, and we care about them. Your team needs that more than anything else. We talked a little bit about controlling the meeting. Be very tight with your company, with your presentations that you're doing for your company. If you say this is a 30-minute talk, keep it to 30 minutes. Open with an agenda, close with a recap, make sure everybody has a chance to speak. That's a big challenge because if you've got a meeting with some extroverts who want to dominate, we've got to make sure the quieter people who often have great ideas, they're going to not be loud about it. Make sure they're heard.
One thing I could add
Sure.
is that I've learned throughout doing some webinars and talks as we're doing here, that if from your side as presenter and organizer, bring a few questions that you believe people might like to know the answer, because sometimes when you ask questions, there's a silence. And because people are, introverts, for whatever reason is. But if you bring a few questions with you, you can start the conversation. You can break the ice. And this will be a suggestion that I would give to all of you.
I like that. And I'll follow that up with Tulia. We had this happen earlier. I asked a question. And for probably 6 to 8 seconds, nobody answered.
Yeah.
And if you notice, I didn't say anything. This is true with live presentations. Maybe the biggest area of presentations that I coach people on is getting comfortable with silence. When you ask a question, you make a good point, or you say something funny, you have to be quiet. Because if you don't, people don't have time to absorb that, what you just said, and see how it applies to their lives. Right. Well, take that and multiply it by 2 or 3 online, because you're going to ask good questions, and people sometimes have muted themselves. They are typing. You've got to give people time to react. Don't be in a hurry to move on from point to point.
Hmm. There's two questions here. I want to ask those, and then I believe we can start wrapping up.
Sure.
First one from Zukra, and Zukra says, how you feel when you speak and you don't see reactions of people? Does it make you feel uncomfortable in this virtual environment?
Absolutely, it does. It's one of the biggest challenges you have early on, is especially if you say something funny and you know what, people always laugh and they don't. It's all about repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to do, if I make a point, if I ask a question, or I say something that usually gets a laugh, what I try to do in my head is answer the question I've just asked.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I make a point, think about how it applies to my life. It seems like an odd suggestion and it feels kind of strange, but it's giving the audience time to think about it. So here's an example. I could ask, who was your favorite teacher when you were in school?
A good question. We always have a favorite teacher.
We always do. Now, the way most people ask that, who was your favorite teacher in school? Why did you like that teacher? Well, my favorite teacher was Mrs. North. Okay. I didn't give you time to think about it. I see people do that in live presentations. Online, you have to do it. So here's what I would do. And I'm going to ask the question and you're going to hear me answer it. But what you're hearing is my thoughts. I wouldn't say this out loud. Who was your favorite teacher in school? Must have been Mrs. North. Why did you like that teacher? Well, she was really good. She taught me a lot about English. She pushed me. I was afraid to go into her class without an answer. See how that works? It feels strange because you're answering a question that you asked, but you're giving people time to think about it. So I promise you, it feels very strange. The first few times I did these, I was like, I'm never going to get used to this. You do. You do, because you get comfortable talking to the camera just like you would another person. Now, what I like about what we're doing today, Tulia, is that you and I have had a conversation. I sense that if you and I were sitting across from each other in a cafe, we would be talking to each other the same way we are right now.
I hope so.
Yeah, because the camera should be no different.
Exactly. And I can tell you, yesterday I was watching Mrs. Oprah live, and she was freaking out because she was doing everything by herself because of the quarantine. She didn't have anybody to help her.
Nobody to help her.
She was like, hold on a second here. I have to, she was talking with Mrs. Alicia Keys. And it wasn't amazing, but she was saying, hold on a second here. I need to figure out how this works. And it's fine. You really enjoy like that spontaneity as well. Okay, it's Oprah, it's Alicia. But my point is, depending on the context, try to start practicing contexts that you can be more relaxed to get used to it. And before me talking here, it's not for me to talk. I have two questions.
Yes.
Aurelie again, she said, do you have a good virtual icebreaker? Do you have anything that you can, as a handout or something you can send to us later?
Oh, absolutely. I just actually typed in the chat box, and I'll say this is one of the tools I have. Do you see that? That is a link to a free report that I created about tips on how to present online. And if you get that, also, I'm going to put my email address in here because once I'm going to, I'm looking at two screens. I have a large one that helps me.
And while you're writing there, I read here what Patricia said. Patricia said, I'm a novice in holding Zoom meetings. What I did to break the ice was ask for any good jokes. Many of them chimed in and laughed. So on that note, one thing that I was coming to my mind while you were talking, Michael, is we have, and I keep repeating this over and over, hammering to my students and clients, you have to become a story collector. Because stories is what it's going to be the link When you break there, when there's no reaction, Zukra, jokes, stories related to your topic, of course, but then you engage them again.
Yeah.
And the last one,
I've got a couple ideas for you for icebreakers. Is when you're doing with webinar, you don't know where in the world people are calling in from. So when I host our weekly calls, hey, put in the chat box, where are you joining us from tonight? I mean, we literally have people on 4 or 5 continents, which is really cool because that starts some good conversations.
Exactly.
It also makes people feel like they're welcome. The other that I mentioned earlier in this right now in the middle of the quarantine is ask people, hey, what's something good that's happened to you? Need to spread good news. Yeah.
There's one thing that, and a last question now, guys, because we are over time. I can sense that this conversation could keep going. Maybe we have to do the second part 2
I'm happy to.
Of this.
Yes, very happy to.
Graciela, she asks, is there a difference presented to children audiences? Online, that'd be challenging.
My first thought, and I haven't thought about this question, is it might be, I mean, you've got to keep their attention just like you would a room full of children. But our kids, their generation, they've grown up on this technology.
True.
As long as you can keep order and say, okay, if you have a question, type it in the chat box. I don't know that I would want to bring a lot of kids online at once because they might, talk over each other, but they know this technology better than we do in most cases.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to have to bring a lot of images.
Yeah, videos.
Lots of animation, something to move.
Short videos too, not 5-minute long. 30 seconds is probably long for a child, but just animations, videos, cartoons, etc.
Okay. Anything else like for everybody? Last questions, or are you silenced forever for now?
Here's what I'll do is I put a link to that report. And the reason I put my email address in there, if you have any questions, you can email me. Secondly, I'm going to add to this report. I picked up some new information in the last 2 days. I'm going to do a follow-up to that report on it's more business meeting focused. So I'll get that out to you if you get the first one. The thing I always like to leave with on these webinars before I have final thoughts is, what is a takeaway? Something that you got out of this today that you can take right away and use in your next online meeting.
There's a question to you guys.
And Tulia, anything that you picked up from this?
How many? But I think I'm suspicious to say something that I would like to hear from them first. But
okay,
let's see if there's any answer here. There's a delay. Marcus made a good point here when you're talking about the pauses, which is a very good point. That I can say this is for me was to reinforce that when asking questions, leave the space for the answers. But also another point we have to have in mind, there's always some kind of delay in the video and the audio in all these transmissions, and depend on where people are, it can be longer or smaller or shorter.
Right. So that's a good point. Ask the question. And
okay, I have some answers for you here.
Good.
Elena said her good points was a background, a micro and position. Marcos, practice. Yeah. Zukra, position, light, desk. Yes. Graciela, okay. Nothing sticks to polish. That was priceless. Can we use that?
Absolutely.
We quote you.
Quote me, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Last question from Graciela. And the average duration for primary school children for a presentation. I don't have the answer for that.
I'm going to say the shorter the better. Change it up. I'm only because, again, my son's 24. What I read about children today is their attention spans are quick. You have to change the pace a lot. Show a video, come back with your face, maybe ask a question, have them, their parents type in the chat box, but keep changing it up.
Zuka has she said she didn't get how to, because she was the one who asked how to manage the awkward feeling when you don't see the audience reactions. We mentioned about bringing stories, and what you said, ask questions, and you have to do your side.
What I would say to Zucker is this: it takes repetition. When I did those first few ones, I was very uncomfortable, and one of my mentors said, "Just keep doing it. You will eventually get comfortable. You're never going to feel as good as you do when you talk to a group of people sitting in front of you, because you're getting reaction. But I promise you, if you just keep doing it, even if you just go on to Zoom or whatever tool you're using and just stare into the camera and do a 5-10 minute presentation, it's really no different than doing it with an audience, because you're not getting a reaction either way.
Exactly.
But you can go back and watch the recording, but just do that several times. I mean, I've literally done about 450 online presentations, webinars, putting online videos together. I promise you, it gets better. But it's just all of it. It's like speaking live. You just have to do it over and over to get yourself used to it.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Last thing from Aurélie, she said her takeaway was come out of your slides and re-engage with the audience. That was a great point as well. And you have here two ladies asking for a second session. And one says, maybe have a second one, Mr. Engaging. So,
Mr. Engaging. Yes, I'm happy to.
We can reorganize that, Elena. So let's see.
Marcus brings up a great point. I'm a member of Toastmasters. That's where I got started. If you could get into Toastmasters, they're all doing virtual meetings now. That is a great place to practice. So great suggestion, Marcus.
Yeah,
let me know. Well, I'm happy to do another call like this on online presenting or storytelling, which we originally talked about, but just let me know.
Yeah, we will. We definitely. And any last saying for us, Michael? We have here the link to your report, and your email. I will pass this on, but I think they can see it here in the chat anyway, but I will send a message to everybody. So Michael, the Mr. Engaging, feel free to connect to him and expand your knowledge and ask all the questions you want.
Yeah, and I'd leave you with this, Tulia. And if you're watching this, the reason you're watching this is because you want to be an impactful presenter, or else you wouldn't be here. In my life, I have never seen the world so stressed out and so in need of leaders as we are right now. We need positive voices. We need people who are going to uplift us, because we will get through this and the world will be different. We have to get used to using online. I mean, there's just no choice if we want to succeed in the business world. But more importantly is, and Tulia said this earlier, it's all about the message. There are so many ways now to get the message out, but if you have a crystal clear message that gives people an answer to the question, how can I improve my life, whatever their problem is, and more importantly, if you can give them hope, then you are serving the world. And we desperately need everyone on this call to get out there with your message. Keep practicing. Please be good to yourself. Forgive yourself. You're going to make all kinds of mistakes. I made several on this call, but you still got some benefit from it. Don't focus on that. Just keep getting out there, spreading the word, and together we'll get through this and the world will be better because of the work we're all doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for all of you there, thank you for being here to hang with us until the end. And this conversation will continue. And as I said from the beginning, I want to see some action after this. Because, action. Not just retaining knowledge without action. That's not the way to go. So action, people. Okay? And we are here, Michael, myself, to support you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And bye for now.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for staying here until the end. I hope you are taking something valuable with you after this talk. Remember, your voice matters. There is someone somewhere out there who needs to hear your stories. It is time for you to stand up and speak up, and I can show you how. Stay safe, stay positive, and until next time in our Speak Up podcast.